So, have you ever seen a thread or a post or a piece of content that went viral? Like it just went viral, it spread all over the world, it had people listening to it, even on the news. What do you think it was that made that thing go viral? Welcome to the Architecting Through Life podcast, where we dig into principles for building ourselves up as individuals while navigating the realities of this thing called life. The podcast is dedicated to young adults and anyone with the deep hunger to grow in their journey of being all that they were created to be. My name is Simon Gubeni, and with each episode, I'll be discussing thoughts and insights drawn from life, from the Bible, from unique experiences, as well as from other great minds and mentors. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and I do hope that you'll enjoy today's episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Architecting Through Life podcast. I've been really curious for a while about the topic that I'll be discussing today, so I decided to share a thought or two on it. It's a bit of a weird topic, but I hope it'll be valuable to someone. I wanted to talk about what I'll title "Man's Search for Virality" or "Man's Search for Going Viral." That's adapted from the title of the book "Man's Search for Meaning" by author and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl. So for the first time in all of human history, we basically have a generation of people growing up in what we'll call the digital age, and we are what are called digital natives, right? People who are native to this age of the digital era. And that's to say that we're living with the first generation of people who have grown up with the internet being a reality for them for their entire lives, right? This is a generation of people who were born in the age of the internet and grew their entire lives with the internet as a reality. We've never known a time in our lives where there wasn't this thing called the internet. And as digital natives, we tend to take for granted just how young the internet is in the scope of human history. People born within the last 30 years are among the first generation in all of history to have lived our whole lives with the internet, right? This digital era also includes interesting things that we all know and love, including most notably social media. And as digital natives or as young people and young adults, a lot of us have lived most of our lives having some access to this thing that we call social media. So in this digital age, it's an environment in which we live, and we've come accustomed to the benefits and advantages that have come with the digital age or being digital natives, right? That's an intuitive understanding of different digital tools, instant messaging, long distance communication with people across the world, remote working, which has become a go-to option with the coronavirus lockdown. We've basically become accustomed to the realities of the digital era, right? It's almost second nature to us. I was reading something the other day where someone is saying, referring to black parents, saying that black parents can be so humble when they're asking you to help them with a setting on their phone that you can even send them to go boil water and they listen, right? It's because of them coming to realize that, look, when it comes to this digital era stuff, you're dealing with an expert here, right? And another advantage that's come with the digital age, which I think I'll spend a bit of time on, is how easy it is to communicate with something, or how easy it is to communicate something, whether it's a message or an idea, and have it accessible to pretty much the whole world, right? And then on top of that, also have it receive direct feedback, almost instantly even. And so for digital natives, people raised in the age of the internet, of social media, it's easy to take for granted just how revolutionary that is. The fact that you can put something out and it can reach the entire world and receive instant feedback, right? The fact that someone in some obscure part of the world can put out a video or a song or an article and its reach can go across geographical boundaries and receive instant feedback is a relatively recent but profound development, right? And it's like a multiplication of the printing revolution that came with the printing press, right? And the Gutenberg Bible. A bit of a backstory. So once upon a time, books had to be produced and reproduced by hand, which is obviously a slow and laborious process. So books were mostly owned by the wealthy and by royalty. Then came the printing press, which enabled multiple reproductions and copies of printed material, and that sparked what was now known as the printing revolution, right? The butterfly effect of that is felt down throughout history, even to our day, where we've got the likes of Amazon, right, owned by the richest or one of the richest men on the planet, which grew out of the soil of the widespread publication of printed books and printed material. But anyway, back to the thought of digital natives and the advantages that come with living in the information and the internet age. Consider one of the consequences of the fact that we're able to consider or to communicate something to the world. Think about it in this way: how people ascribe value to things usually tends to be shaped by the prevailing attitude around the thing, right? Or by the environment that they find themselves in. So the value that we place on things as individuals tends to often be influenced by the general attitude that people have around those things. So, for example, in a growing climate where more and more women are expressing an interest in men with beards, you find more and more men wanting to grow their beards, right? How individuals tend to value things is influenced by a general attitude that other people tend to have for those things. Now we live in the digital age, in the age of the internet and of social media, and it's basically framed our perspective of the world and how we ascribe value to things. So one example of this would be how we ascribe value to this thing called engagement, right? And now when I talk about engagement, I'm not referring to that fiery and exciting period before a young man and a woman gets married, but engagement as in how people interact with content or with a material or with a post or with something that you've put out. That's the engagement that I'm referring to. And the value of engagement is where if you find something, you measure its value based on the engagement that it gets, right? Whether it's likes, whether it's comments, whether it's emojis of laughing with tears and so on. Engagement has become a measure of how people ascribe value to things, right? And so with this being the case, with regards to social media, putting out content and things like that, the things which we've come to see to be of highest value are things which we seem to perceive as having the highest level of engagement, right? And this happens when something goes viral. So when it gets so much engagement that it gets shared and spread so much that it's spread like a virus. And that's actually where the term viral comes from. Like when a virus spreads through the body, or like when the virus spreads from one person to another and it's shared from one person to another to the point where it even affects a whole population, right? And that's an obvious example of how things have gone viral is, for example, the coronavirus. It started in a part of the world and it spread and has affected every single person of the world to some degree, right? Now, all people have a shared desire to be valued, right? We all want in some way to be valued, and how we chase that sense of value will be shaped to a large extent by what we or our society counts as value. Now, in an age of the digital native, the social media and internet era, one of the pursuits that I've observed or I've seen that myself and even other people have pursued as a sense of value is falling into the trap of doing and chasing things in order to grab what is perceived as a sense of engagement and ultimately virality, right? Chasing after producing or sharing something that'll be so great that it'll be shared with hundreds and thousands of people all across the world and have such a high level of engagement that you would have a sense of accomplished something that's one of the greatest achievement in the digital age, going viral, right? Now, you may be listening to this and think, and you have no relation to this, because you're a decent and upright person, and that's fine. But I know that to some degree, it may be true for some, right? That's chasing the engagement of virality. Now, you may say, but what's wrong with wanting to go viral, on my Instagram page or on my YouTube channel or on my TikTok? What's wrong with having a fire thread that'll blow up on Twitter or a meme that'll break the internet, Without getting into a discussion about the good or the bad of it, I want to maybe look at that question with an observation. I've come to notice that something about things which have gone viral, whether it's the mannequin challenge which had the world raving. Once upon a time, we had the Woolworths water challenge in South Africa. Now we've got the Don't Rush channel, all of which will likely fizzle out in a few months. What I've come to notice is that the initial thing that was shared or produced wasn't shared with the primary purpose of going viral, right? That's to say that most things that tend to go viral didn't have virality as the main aim, right? Some guys were trying to share a joke, or a father wanted to share a cute moment of singing with his daughter, or some ladies were dressing up and trying to look pretty during the lockdown, right? To some degree of success. And to their surprise, it blew up and went viral, right? So what they initially wanted to share, to give, for the sake of sharing, became valuable enough to spread and go viral, right? I think of something that Gary V or Gary Vaynerchuk, those who might know him, something that he once raised. So he's the author of a book called Crushing It and a number of other great books on branding and digital media. He once gave a summary on what are the things that tend to grab and hold people's attention, especially on social media. And he sums it up as being what he calls utility and engagement, right? Utility and engagement. Utility is basically something that's useful, right? Something that's educational, something that's practical, something that can serve a function in someone's life. And then entertainment, obviously, is something that's enjoyable to watch or to hear, something that's funny, something that's thrilling, something that brings an adrenaline rush, or even that stirs up a moving emotion, right? Utility and entertainment were found in everything that tends to get the most engagement and to hold people's attention the most. This is the same with memes as well, right? The memes that tend to go viral are the ones that most people can either relate to or that entertain or educate us in some kind of way. I'd summarize Gary Vee's points even further and say that that which tends to be shared enough to go viral is that which is initially intended to benefit those who received it, right? Not only to promote the giver, right? So the one who made the thing that went viral, in most cases, seemingly didn't have virality as the goal, right? Didn't have going viral as their aim. Rather, it was about how can I share something that'll benefit someone, right? That'll make them smile, that'll help or be useful to whoever receives it. In a lot of content that succeeded in going viral, it seems to usually be not about what can I put out that'll get me the most attention, but rather what can I give? I want to give and share this thing. The ironic thing about all of this is that that kind of thinking, the kind of thinking that tries to give rather than receive, is exactly the type of stuff that we see going viral. I think of the likes of Jay Shetty and Prince EA, guys who have the gift of making awesome material which usually goes viral. What you notice about the things that they make or the things that you and I as viewers want to consume their content, what makes us want to engage with it and share it with others, is because we've benefited something from it, right? We've either been encouraged or enlightened in some kind of way. And I think that there's an important lesson to take away from this that goes beyond just posting things on social media or on the internet. And that's basically the point that I want to share in the discussion. And the lesson is this, that when we shift our focus away from doing things primarily to receive validation from others, whether it's in our work, our ministries, our social lives, and so on, when we shift our attention away from trying to receive and wanting to actually give value, to be an asset, to be a benefit, that will actually be what gets noticed and ultimately valued, right? The power of this thought is in the fact that it actually allows us to properly measure the value of the things that we do. That when our effort and our approach is not in wanting to receive validation, but on wanting to give something of value, it allows you and I to place a proper value or estimation on the things that we do. So instead of measuring the value of something by how many likes it gets or by how many people are applauding or complimenting it, beyond just social media now, I'm talking about our work and our service. Instead of measuring the value of what we do by whether we receive applause or whether the measure of our value is by how many likes or things like that we get, what if we measure the value of our work by how faithful we were to the goal of actually trying to give something valuable, right? What if we measure the value of our work by how faithful we were to the goal of trying to give something true or something positive? Or what if we value the value of our work by knowing that, look, I did what I could to give something beneficial? What if that's where the satisfaction came from? Now, this is not to say that feedback or engagement or the market doesn't matter, but rather to consider the fact that the idea of virality is the result of producing something that actually benefits some other people, right? It's the consequence of giving something valuable. And if that's the case, then you and I should do our best in giving as much value as we can, whether it's at work, online, even in our relationship, that our priority should be on giving value rather than receiving validation or applause. I think that perhaps this is what Jesus meant when he said, it's more blessed to give than to receive. This is a thought that I'm coming to learn and to consider as I look at how I value things and how I value the things that I do. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this and whether you agree or disagree. I'd be interested to get your ideas on whether or not you think that that's an accurate observation of, this idea of virality, of how people interact. And on whatever platform you're getting this on. But yeah, I'd like to get your thoughts on this idea of man's search for value being actually man's search for virality. That's it for today's episode. Thanks for listening. And to get in touch again, do feel free to visit www.simongubeni.co.za. There you'll find links to my social media platforms. You can connect there, some content, some work, and things like that. But otherwise, thanks for listening and do have an awesome day. My name is Simon and I'm wishing you all the best on your journey of architecting through life. Much love. Thank you for listening to the episode that you've just heard on the Architecting Through Life podcast. If you found it valuable, please kindly do me the favor of sharing it and maybe leaving a comment if you'd like. I really like to get your thoughts, any impact that you might feel it may have, and do feel free to share it with someone else so that it can be a benefit to them as well. Thank you so much for your time, and do join us again on the next episode of the Architecting Through Life podcast.